Welcome to the NC Spin After Spin. Additional comments from our panelists just available on our website. John Hood, what do you wish you had said on last week's show, but you didn't?
I made reference to the fact that President Trump is proposing a 5% to start with and then ratcheting up tariff on imports from Mexico, predicated on the fact that Mexico, in his mind, has not done enough to stem the refugees, the asylum seekers moving through Mexico into the southern United States. He's insisting that Mexico do something about that, take them in themselves, become the flagged as essentially a refugee country, which would allow for the U.S. to immediately turn back the asylum seekers and so forth. The stakes for North Carolina are significant. As I mentioned, $7.7 billion worth of imports into the state. Now, you can't assume or just multiply that by 5%, and that's how much it'll cost. In the short run, if companies are importing products that get a lot more expensive, the only choice they're really going to have is to try to not lose money, is to raise prices for consumers, and that will be a hundreds of millions of dollars direct tax increase. Over time, of course, they will choose to import goods from other places that don't have that tariff. The reason they already don't import from those places is they're probably more expensive or the products aren't as good, so that will, one way or the other, represent a cost to North Carolina consumers. Now, whether it's the short run or the long run, this is a very costly enterprise. Now, whether you think that Trump's diagnosis of the asylum problem is correct or not, is this really the right tool to use to solve the problem?
A lot of Republicans are saying they're two separate issues here that need to be addressed.
Well, lots of Americans are saying they're two separate issues.
Well, and I was going to say, this is the first time that we've seen the Republican Congress really sort of rising up in opposition to Trump. How do you think this is all going to turn out?
Well, I think that trade with Mexico and trade with China have different political valences. I also think that Republicans believe, even if they're naturally the conservative consensus, at least until yesterday, was that free enterprise is good, free markets are good, government shouldn't be meddling. And Republicans in Congress typically still believe that. They kind of make China as a separate case because of trademark infringements and various other misdeeds by the Chinese in the marketplace, and so they kind of make a distinction. But when it gets to Mexico or to countries in Europe, costly tariffs on Canadians, it's over. This is something where Trump is, whatever, maybe Trump's base sticks with him, but elected lawmakers who have other interests in mind are not simply going to keep going along with it.
Well, my understanding is that congressional Republicans are hearing from the folks back home, don't vote for this, don't allow this.
That's correct. And also take some of your power back. The president is not a dictator. He can't just tell, he doesn't really have any authority the Congress hasn't given him to enact tariffs. This is a congressional matter.
And yet, I think the adage is here, if you got enough bluff and bluster, you can get your way through most anything.
This is Trump's life story.
Interesting. Good comments. Thanks for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.